Hi everybody, and welcome to my session on systemic disease that can impact the skin. So we're very fortunate that the Australian beauty industry has been able to bring to us this amazing virtual expo. So I know that I've enjoyed it. I hope you continue to enjoy it. And the world has changed, hasn't it? But we're still fortunate that we can still have education. So my talk this morning is on autoimmune diseases and how these sorts of diseases can have a huge impact on the skin itself. So immunology lung diseases develop when the normal mechanism of immune self-tolerance fail. Macrophage cells and lymphocytes are the key cells involved in the initiation and the perpetration of the acquired immune response in the lung. Macrophage serves as scavenger cells, ingesting and degrading the inhaled antigenic load. So they gobble up all this bacteria and it is removed out through the lymphatic system. In addition to this, these cells serve as antigen-presenting cells for T lymphocytes. Relatively few lymphocytes are present in the normal lung. However, after stimulation by the relevant antigen in the surrounding lymphoid tissues, lymphocytes specific for that antigen migrate to the lung and participate in the inflammatory response. Essentially, all systemic autoimmune diseases appear to be dependent on the inappropriate activation of autoreactive CD4 T cells, as well as the autoreactive B cells responsible for the pathogenic autoantibodies. Antibodies. Depending on the underlying autoimmune process, the pulmonary parenchyma or airway may be the predominantly affected. So systemic autoimmune diseases are a group of diseases which frequently involve the lungs. The pleuropulmonary manifestations of these diseases are very diverse, affecting all anatomic locations of the respiratory tract. That is the alveolar, that's where the blood collects. So these are two little sacs. So we've got two lungs, left and right. The alveolar are the sacs at the base of each one of these lungs where the oxygen is then carried through the blood. So blood vessels and the pleura. Although pulmonary complications generally occur in patients with well-established disease, occasionally the lung involvement is the first manifestation of the autoimmune disorder. So, we need to really, when we're doing our consultations, we really need to understand the manifestation of what a lung disorder can do systemically to the entire body and also effectively have a huge impact on the skin itself. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and that's shortened down. If you're reading articles and things like that, you'll see COPD. That stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's a major cause of global mortality, and it remains one of the greatest public concerns. So many patients with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease have chronic diseases linked to the same risk factor, which is mainly smoking and aging, and also people that live in highly polluted areas. Inflammatory mediators in the circulatory contribute to the skeletal muscle wasting, heart disease, osteoporosis, anemia, diabetes, and the metabolic syndrome. So all of these conditions will be in some way have a huge impact on the skin. So if we just have a look at this image here on the screen, you can see that we have on the top, let's go to the bottom right-hand corner. you can see that we've got this alveolar, which is a healthy alveolar. So this is full of blood. When you breathe in, that oxygen is taken through the blood, and it serves the body. Part of this will breathe out as carbon dioxide. The rest will actually take through the body as oxygen that is used by mitochondria. If we look at the top right-hand corner, you'll see that an alveoli, which is heavily polluted. We've got macrophage cells that have actually lined the walls here. There is very, very little oxygen filling up this alveolar. There's no oxygen getting through to the blood. This person that has this emphysema is getting hardly any oxygen through their body. So their body is aging. They have mitochondria damage to their body. They are very susceptible to further disease, and their actual body starts to break down. This is what actually happens as lung disease and autoimmune disease starts to have an impact and effect to the lungs, how it can have a huge impact onto the body. Over time, this is going to have a huge change, or it doesn't really take a lot of time, to be honest with you, have a huge change to the skin. The skin will have a breakdown in the barrier function, where we'll see a lot of erythema, we'll have bacteria, we'll see a lot of lax skin. It starts to lose its collagen, its elasticity. We start to lose structure of the skin. We start to lose muscle tone in the skin. We start to lose bone structure of the skin, and we start to see massive aging of the skin. So we know the skin is a multifunctional organ acting as a protective physical barrier by absorbing UV radiation, preventing microorganism invasion, chemical penetration, and controlling the passage of water and electrolytes. In addition, skin has a major role in the thermoregulation of the body, as well as complex immunological, sensory, and autonomic functions. The structure of human skin and its biophysical characteristics turn it into an effective first-line defense against exogenous factors and help maintain homeostasis. This homeostasis role, is played by the epidermal barrier, in which the corneal layer of the epidermis has a very particular and very important function to perform. The condition of the epidermal barrier depends on its properties, such as the amount of sebum produced, the epidermis hydration, the transepidermal water loss to the skin, and actually how the skin is going to function. And when we have heat in the skin, how it's going to regulate itself and return back to homeostasis. So many things have an impact on the barrier function of the skin. One of them is skin temperature, which we will talk about in a second. But let's just think about when the barrier function of the skin is not intact, when it is broken down. That's when we see major infections happening to the skin. And this can happen because of many, many manifestations, one of them being hormonal changes. And these hormonal changes can be brought on when we have changes to systems within the body. And one of those major systems that can have an impact on the nervous system and the hormonal systems is the pulmonary system. So if we have a change to the pulmonary system, it will have an impact on nearly every system within your body, your cardiovascular system, your nervous system, your hormonal system, and all of these systems will eventually have an impact on the thing that's protecting them all, and that's the skin. The skin will start to break down. So skin temperature is an important physiological measure that can reflect the presence of illness or injury, and it can provide insight into localized interactions between the body and the external environment. So the body remains a thermoregulatory control of approximately around 37 degrees, give or take. So skin temperature is significantly higher in people who smoke or who live in heavily polluted areas. The higher the pollution, the more temperature their skin will have. And it isn't related back to fevers or illnesses, it's just the temperature of their skin will rise because of the amount of pollution or the smoke that they're around, smoking or being around people who smoke or being in these heavily polluted areas. There are significant research and studies showing that lung disease is associated with pollution and smoke. We've heard about it for years and years and years, so we know that that is evident. The long-term temperature increases to skin, increases inflammation, aging, and skin condition deteriorates. So when the skin is or maintains these high temperatures and it isn't able to regulate its thermal regulation, it isn't able to regulate that, then the skin actually starts to break down. There's lots of other factors that come into play with this as well. So when we have heavily polluted areas, we have a lot of particulate matter. This particulate matter is made up of a lot of different air pollutants. And the air pollutants actually break down the barrier function, which probably has a lot to do with the skin maintaining its high temperature. But these high temperatures in the skin will have an impact on the rest of the body. Your lungs are very much affected by these areas that people live in. And the other thing that affects, it's not only polluted areas or cities like Asian cities and European cities that are heavily polluted, it's when we have things like bushfires and stuff like that, that where the smoke lasts for months and months and months afterwards, and it carries for kilometres. And we had that, I'm in Australia, I live in Australia, so we had major bushfires in our southern states. I live in Queensland, and we had our major bushfires in southern states early in 2020, before COVID. And we were getting the smoke haze up here in Queensland, hundreds of kilometres away. So that pollution will carry for that distance, and people are affected all over the place by this pollution. Our lungs are affected, and the temperature of our skin is affected because of that. So in those cases, when we have those conditions, then people tend to break out in rashes, barrier function tends to break down, and we start to see probably bacteria starting to appear on the skin as well. Sarcoidosis is an inflammatory disease in which granulomas or clumps of inflammatory cells form in various organs. So these granulomas form all through the body in different organs within the body and within the lungs themselves. Sarcoidosis usually starts within the lungs. This causes organ inflammation, where sarcoidosis may be triggered by your body's immune system responding to foreign substances such as viruses, bacteria, or chemicals. There are many different forms of sarcoidosis, and sarcoidosis can affect many organs of the body, but on the skin, the symptoms can include skin rashes, skin sores, hair loss, and also raised scars. So this is cutaneous sarcoidosis. Cutaneous sarcoidosis is a skin condition, and you can see that we've got these little granulomas that are forming these little blisters that are forming on the skin here. So sarcoidosis is an autoimmune disease that leads to inflammation, usually in your lungs, skin, or lymph nodes. It starts as tiny grain-like lumps called granulomas. And sarcoidosis can affect any organ in your body, like I've already mentioned. It can be divided into two separate conditions: a multi-system disease, with 30% of patients having cutaneous involvement, or cutaneous sarcoidosis, in which there is no systemic involvement. So cutaneous involvement is classified as either specific, in which there are mixed chronic inflammatory cells. Specific lesions of sarcoidosis include lupus, pernio, macular sarcoidosis, plaque sarcoidosis, and subcutaneous nodular sarcoidosis. Non-specific lesions of sarcoidosis include erythematosus, namular eczema, and pruritus. Cutaneous sarcoidosis, which you're looking at here on the screen, in which there is no systemic involvement, usually has a prolonged course. Papules and nodules tend to resolve over months, and it can even take years for these to resolve, whilst the plaques may be more resistant. So when people develop this type of sarcoidosis, it can be anywhere on their body, from their face to the trunk of the body to their limbs, arms, legs. It can present anywhere, and it can be there for years and years and years. It is non-systemic, and it takes a long time to treat. Lupus pernio is a chronic raised induration. The lesions are very hardened and often has a purplish colour to it. It is found and seen on the nose, the ears, the cheeks, the lips, forehead, and it is a pathognomonic of sarcoidosis. And often it is misdiagnosed as rosacea. But if you have a look at this condition that we're looking at on the screen here, you can see that there are actually wheals. It actually looks like little circles around. And you'll have different nodules within these lesions. They are very hard, raised lesions on the skin, surrounded by this broken down barrier function. Very distinct. Plaque sarcoidosis is characterized by round to oval, round brown to purple infiltrated plaques. The center of the plaque may be atrophic, and some of these plaques may even appear scaly and can be confused with lesions of psoriasis or lichen planus. So again, these can appear anywhere on the body. They can appear on the fingers, they can appear on the nose, the cheeks, the ears, and the face as well. And again, they take a long time for them to actually disappear. So when the skin is affected by sarcoidosis, you'll see a rash of red or reddish purple bumps, usually located on the skin, the shins or the ankles, or usually they'll start there, but they, like we've seen already, we can see these lesions appear on the face. They'll be warm and tender to touch. They'll have disfiguring sores or lesions. These can appear on the nose, the cheeks, and the ears. And areas of the skin will appear darker or lighter in colour. The sarcoidosis can lead to thickening of the skin and will also lead to much scarring of the skin as well. The scarring, because sarcoidosis is a condition that isn't easily treated, and it takes a long, long time for this condition to dissipate. So what causes an autoimmune disease? Let's have a look at this. So autoimmune diseases occur when the responses that normally prevent the autoimmunity to fail. There are several protective mechanisms. One being maturing T lymphocytes in the thymus, which is a lymphoid organ found between the lungs where the T cells develop and mature. So your T cells are cells that are part of the immune system. They are born in the bone marrow and they migrate to your thymus where they actually mature. So from there, they actually are sent out to where they're going to reside. And some of them will go to lymph nodes, others will go to the barrier function of the skin. These T cells are the only cells that need to mature in the thymus. All other immune cells are born in the bone marrow and they will move to the sites that they need to take up residency, being lymph nodes and other areas of the body. The thymus, when we're young, is very large, so we have loads of maturation of these T cells. As we get older, our thymus starts to shrink and we have less and less maturation of T cells. So it's only fair to say that as we get older, we have less immunity within our body. So that's why we need to really start to look after ourselves as we age. The other thing that actually declines the size of the thymus is stress levels. So it has been proven that children, there's been a lot of studies showing that children that live under very stressful situations, their thymus starts to shrink and they have very poor immunity because they have less maturation of T cells. Again, in very stressful situations, as through all life, our thymus starts to degenerate and we have less maturation of these T cells. So T cells are a huge part of our barrier function. They're a huge part of both our innate and our adaptive immunity. The T cells are thought to be the educators for our own skin bacteria. So they're educating our own skin bacteria how to defend themselves and defend the skin against bad bacteria, pathogens, and bacteria that shouldn't be on the skin. When it gets there, it actually defends the skin against this bacteria. And T cells are found, there's studies that are coming out, more and more of these studies that are coming out through skin cancer research, showing us that we have a good, healthy, educational role of these T cells to this bacteria. So these circulating T regulating cells suppress immune responses. B lymphocytes that react strongly against self-antigens can undergo receptor editing and change their B cell receptors. So T and B lymphocytes in the circulation need co-stimulation by other immune cells to become active. Genetic factors are most commonly polygenetic. So, for example, multi-genes combine to increase risks. Infections may trigger an autoimmune process by mimicking a self-antigen or by increasing co-stimulatory molecules. Genes on the Y chromosome may protect men from auto diseases, and estrogen may play a role in the increased susceptibility of women to autoimmune diseases. Women are more susceptible to autoimmune diseases. Then there are certain drugs like penicillin, captopril, and vancomycin, which are also triggers for autoimmune diseases. An autoimmune disease is a condition in which your immune system mistakenly attacks your body. It doesn't mean to, it just does. The immune system normally guards against germs like bacteria and viruses, but when it senses these foreign invaders, it sends out an army of fighter cells to attack them. Normally, the immune system can tell the difference between foreign cells and your own cells. In an autoimmune disease, the immune system mistakes part of your body, like joints or your skin, as being foreign. It releases proteins called autoantibodies that attacks healthy cells. The exact cause of a particular autoimmune disease is often not fully understood. The risk factors for many autoimmune diseases include genetic factors, infections, hormones, and drugs. Some autoimmune diseases target only one organ. So type 1 diabetes damages the pancreas. Other diseases like systemic lupus will affect the whole body. Sarcoidosis can affect any organ in your body, all of them. And I say that again, all of them will have an impact on the skin. So we have over 100 different types of autoimmune diseases. Skin symptoms of autoimmune diseases include rashes, blisters, lesions, scaly patches, and a healthy skin will only form a blister after your skin becomes damaged or is dead. In skin suffering from an autoimmune blister disease, your body's immune system mistakes normal skin tissue for something it needs to fight off and then attacks the healthy skin tissue. This causes a blister to form. So you can see everything here on this slide that autoimmune diseases will attack. So the lungs, the nerves, the GI tract, your blood, your brain, your thyroid, your bones, your muscles, and the skin. So immunity and deregulation of the immune system also contribute to many skin diseases such as systemic sclerosis. Dermatitis is an autoimmune condition that causes skin changes and muscle weaknesses. Symptoms can include a red skin rash around the eyelids, red bumps around the joints, and muscle weaknesses in the arms and legs. Dermatomyositis is the most common in adults between the ages of 40 and 60. And that's what you're looking at here on the right-hand side of your screen. Other conditions that are caused by autoimmune diseases are psoriasis, is thought to be caused by autoimmune diseases. Vitiligo. There are lots of theories surrounding vitiligo, but autoimmune diseases have always come up with an association. Alopecia areata and lichen sclerosis. So lupus is a systemic autoimmune disease that occurs when your body's immune system attacks your own tissues and organs. Inflammation caused by lupus can affect many different body systems, including your joints, your skin, your kidneys, your blood cells, your brain, your heart, and your lungs. All of these are very serious conditions. So you can see here, you can see how it's raised. There's lots of erythema. You can see how it's raised off the skin there. As it starts to dissipate, you'll be left with some scar tissue, and often there's a lot of hyperpigmentation associated with this. Muscle dystrophy is a group of inherited diseases that lead to progressive muscle weakening and loss of muscular control. So in some cases, the immune system can attack diseased muscle and damaged tissue. So how does muscle dystrophy have an impact on the skin? Well, obviously, when we have a disease of the muscles, we have atrophy of bone tissue, we will have atrophy of skin as well. So people, sadly, with this disease, they age incredibly fast. They have a lot of black skin. They have a lot of wrinkling as well. Dermatitis herpetiformis is a chronic autoimmune blistering skin condition characterized by blisters filled with a watery fluid that is intensely itchy. A lot of pruritus attached with this. Dermatitis herpetiformis is a cutaneous manifestation of a celiac disease. Celiac disease. So this is associated with an autoimmune disease that is associated with a bowel disease. Again, you can see here the little blisters that are forming. As with most of the systemic autoimmune diseases that affect the skin, there's always blistering attached to it, almost always blistering attached to it, associated with a rash. And as this starts to heal, you'll find that there will be scar formation because of the prolonged activity of the disorder, and there'll also be some hyperpigmentation as well. So, you know, when we're treating hyperpigmentation, we need to really understand the form, what caused the hyperpigmentation before we start to treat that. Obviously, if it's caused by an autoimmune disease, there'll be a lot of preparation for that leading up to that. So experts believe psoriasis is an autoimmune disease. That means your body thinks its own tissues are foreign invaders that must be attacked. It also means that unlike a simple rash, you can't get rid of it, and over-the-counter skin treatments can only help to relieve the condition. So we know that people with psoriasis is a reoccurring condition that reoccurs at times, probably when they're highly stressed, or they might fall ill for some reason or whatever, and obviously change of seasons as well. So very disfiguring, and again, lots of scar formation once the plaque has reduced, and things that actually they do to actually help to correct this is using vitamin A lamps and things like that. LED lamps are very good for using treatments for treating psoriasis, eczema. I find LED lamps, I use that a lot in my own clinic, are excellent for treating these kind of skin conditions. But you can walk down rows of pharmacies and find so many items on the shelves that people have created to treat psoriasis and eczema. So treatment for all of these conditions normally include corticosteroids that are applied directly to the lesions. People have to use these. It's a medical condition. They take the medications as well as applying the creams. These will have kind of other complications, but I mean, it's a relief and they need to use these products. Prescriptions such as prednisones, methotrexate are also given, and they use laser and light therapies in clinics to treat these conditions as well. So if we can combine these, I think it's amazing. The other treatment that I heavily recommend is lymphatic drainage. With all of these, I really encourage people to look at the immune system. It is an autoimmune disease. We need to look at the lymphatic system. We need to look at the blood circulatory system as well. So I heavily encourage people to do massage therapy, and to do lymphatic drainage, however you might do that. So autoimmune diseases affect around 5% of the population. 5% seems like a small number, but when you look at the population of the world, it is quite a large number. Most autoimmune diseases are more common in women than they are in males. People with a family history of autoimmune diseases are at a higher risk of developing an autoimmune disease themselves. So history of autoimmune diseases, we need to, it's always, when you're doing consultation, a good question to ask, always ask about lung disorders, lung diseases. When you do your consultation, please look at people at their breathing. Do they shallow breathe? Do they deep breathe? Please encourage people to do some deep breathing exercises, whether they have an autoimmune disease or not. It's just a really good practice, and it's good for you to be able to do that yourself as well. So I've really enjoyed presenting this on behalf of the Australian Beauty Expo from my own home. It's been a pleasure. My name's Gay Wardle. I have online education. My face-to-face classes have ceased because of COVID for the time, but and I do a lot of mentoring as well. So thank you for listening. I hope to hear from you guys. I'll be in touch one day soon, and enjoy the rest of the expo. Thank you. Bye.